Hello, and welcome to Beyond Bereavement, The Power of Planning. My name is Beatrice Tony Bailey, and I am your television host and the author of the book, Farewell, My Friend. Farewell, My Friend was written as a result of the many lessons I learned while taking care of my late husband. I found out during this very stressful time that it's not a matter of if a person's going to have to deal with these end-of-life issues, but when and who. Beyond Bereavement, The Power of Planning is a collaborative effort between the Interfaith Service Bureau and its television station, RCC TV, and Eastline Memorial Park. It's the desire of these organizations that Beyond Bereavement, The Power of Planning function as a platform for interactive discussions between the various faith communities. Won't you join us? Hello, and my name is Beatrice Bailey, and I am your host of Beyond Bereavement, The Power of Planning. We want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. Today we have a guest in our studio, and her name is Cynda Rennie, and she is the resource specialist and the area office manager for the Sacramento Alzheimer's Society. So I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and then we're going to talk about the organization.
Sure. Thank you for having me today, Bea. The Alzheimer's Society has been around for 29 years, and I've been there for 25 of those 29 in one way or another, as the resource consultant, as a member of the board of directors, and now I'm working in the office. But my background is a little interesting in that I didn't know a thing about Alzheimer's disease in 1985. And I began researching it on my own because I have an adult daughter with Down syndrome.
All right.
And I read the statistic that said people with Down syndrome more often than not develop Alzheimer's in their 40s. And my daughter was 20 at that time. So I read everything I could. I just thought I'd be prepared. And in the course of learning about it, I got more and more interested in it and then had an opportunity to change fields. So I went to work for a local hospital as a resource specialist, and that's what I've been doing ever since. My daughter is going to be 50. And
you look like a baby yourself.
Yeah, I am a baby,
okay.
Yes.
You'll take that, right?
Yeah, I'll take that. She's only 8 years younger than I am. She's adopted, and she now has the diagnosis. And
of Alzheimer's?
Yes, and when she was diagnosed, I almost forgot why I came into this field. It was like, well, my goodness, I guess I am prepared. But she's a sweetheart, and she doesn't mind at all because she's been, by my side all these years, getting to know patients in facilities, going to recreational programs for Alzheimer patients. So she's really quite pleased. She knows that those people are loved and they're special. And so she'll readily say, "Oh, I have Alzheimer's."
You see, and what you've just said, it's in keeping with the premise of the show. It's called Beyond Bereavement, The Power of Planning. You knew that you were going to have a life obstacle that you were going to have to deal with. So again, you were proactive. You went out, you got information on it. And if you get information on, I don't care whatever it is, if you're going through a housing situation, if you're going through cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, get as much information as you can early on. Know your family history. And in your case, although your daughter was adopted, you knew the history of children that had Down syndrome and the tendency for them to develop Alzheimer's. And when was Alzheimer's discovered or diagnosed? Do you have any idea?
When it was first identified? In 1906. And that's interesting too, because we never heard of it. Did you ever hear of it before the 80s?
No, you didn't.
Never heard of it.
Grandmother was a little off. Grandma kept wearing her clothes. She was senile. She had dementia. She kept forgetting things. And we just thought, you're just old age, senility.
The reason for that is that Dr. Alzheimer in Austria, he worked at a, like an asylum, what we would call here a state hospital. And he noticed over the course of his many years there that there were some people in their 40s and 50s that would develop this progressive degeneration, and so he began doing autopsies. And he identified this amyloid plaque and these nerve tangles, which are the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. And it was named Alzheimer's disease. it was thought to be what's called a pre-senile dementia, meaning that it occurred before the age of 65. So we went on as a society, Europe, everyone, thinking that Alzheimer's was a very rare disease that happened to younger people, and that when grandma or grandpa became confused, that was just senility and kind of a normal part of aging. It wasn't until 1977 that it was once and for all established that what happened to my grandma and many others was actually the same disease but occurring at a later age.
Wow, wow. Let's talk a little bit about your organization. Your logo is a flower. You want to show us your logo?
I do.
And why that particular flower? It's not a rose, it's not a daisy.
It's a forget-me-not. And a lot of agencies around the world use the forget-me-not as a symbol.
A lot of the Alzheimer's oh, really?
And we decided that why go to something when this is so perfect? Why be original when this is so perfect? What we did do, though, is choose the single flower versus a cluster.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because our focus, whether it's for the patient or for the caregiver, is on the individual.
All right.
We help one person at a time, and we hear one story at a time. And I can't even count in 25 years how many times a caregiver has said to me, "Oh, Cynda, you've heard this before." It doesn't matter. It's their story. They're the individual.
And each story would have a different twist on it. Each story would have
absolutely
would have one. And if you think about the logo, "Forget Me Not," I mean, it swings both ways. Forget the patient not, and you don't forget the family. I mean, because it's so easy in this hustle bustle world that we live in today, just to kind of swoop things, under the carpet. So forget me not.
Yep.
And forget me not the way I used to be.
That's right.
And that I heard that Alzheimer's was described as the long goodbye.
Yes, it has been described as the long goodbye.
And why is that?
It's also described as a movie running backwards.
Wow.
Because as the disease progresses, the person goes farther back in time. So he may, in the beginning, have trouble remembering things that he did today or yesterday. Next week, he's going to have trouble remembering things he did for a few weeks. Next year, he may have forgotten 6 months out of the year. And when he is 10 years into the disease, even though he's 80, he might believe that he's 60. When he's 15 years into the disease, he might believe that he's 40. And eventually, he may start calling his wife mother. He may think his daughter is his sister.
It's almost like that movie Benjamin Button.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if everyone saw that. It was a very, very creative movie. And the child started out really old, and then he gets progressively younger.
Yep.
You know, till he goes back and becomes just a toddler. So it's a different kind of movie, but I guess that'd be very, very similar. Now, how did the organization get started?
It started in 1981. The founder, her name...
Is this here or just, are you national?
No, we are in Northern California. Okay. It started in South Lake Tahoe because that's where the founder lived, and her name is Bee Gorman, and she had...
Her name is Beatrice?
Beatrice
All
Gorman.
Right. There's more of us out there.
There's another one, yes. In fact, I was afraid I would call you Bee Gorman by mistake.
It would be an honor if you did.
The Bee had... Her mother had the early onset Alzheimer's disease, the kind that Dr. Alzheimer described. Her mother was 42 when she developed the disease.
Wow.
And Bee was the youngest of 9 children. So as the years went on and her siblings became adults, one by one, 4 out of her 8 siblings have died of Alzheimer's disease.
You know, I think I've read about that.
You probably have, yeah. So Bee really was quite certain that she had a 50-50 chance, and she really felt she was next. And just like I did with my daughter Angie, she became very proactive.
Okay.
She wanted to learn everything. She offered herself for research, take my genetic makeup, learn what you can from me. And she started support groups, which was something in 1981 that just didn't exist. The other organization that we're all familiar with, the Alzheimer's Association, they also started in 1981. So it really was a ground level beginning.
Did they know each other? Were there one spin-off from the other?
No. We, as they expanded, they began in Chicago. As they expanded, and we're interested in opening a chapter in Sacramento. We actually declined becoming affiliated only because it's been one of our missions from the beginning to keep our funds local and to really serve our own community. So we've remained independent for that reason.
And you're a nonprofit organization?
We're nonprofit. We're a United Way agency.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, what's your organizational structure? You're here in Sacramento. Do you have a board of directors? How does that work?
Okay. We have a board of directors. 2 of us have been there 25 years plus. So it's an old board, a seasoned board, and then we have some new blood in there too. A fabulous board. This is an agency that attracts really passionate, compassionate people.
Now, do people, not to tell stories out of school, but are members on the board, do they have families that have Alzheimer's?
Some do, yes. Some do, and some are professionals in the field. And we have an office in Modesto, which is at 700 McHenry Boulevard, and then our Sacramento office is just east of Fulton on Cottage Way, 2641 Cottage.
Well, I would think that in view of the fact that you do have people who literally live with the disease, they would have a different agenda. It's just not all theory and fundraising and things of that sort. They absolutely know, you know, what it means to really have a family directly impacted by this disease, and it's so insidious. It's so many different layers associated with Alzheimer's. We had 2 episodes on Alzheimer's. We had Roberta Rumwalt, who is a definite advocate for Alzheimer's patients. Her husband was a patient, and she does a lot of work with the California Coalition with caregivers. So she's really involved with that. But on that particular show, we had this one lady on named Dorothy, and Dorothy had the advanced stages of Alzheimer's. She was just a doll. I mean, she was literally out of it. She came and she would smile, and I'd ask her a question, she would smile, but she couldn't really communicate that well. Her son was here, and he gave his story about what it's like to take care of his mother, and he had a different kind of take. He considered it a pleasure and an honor to take care of his mother. There was a 2-part episode. The second part, we had a husband and wife on, and he had the early stages of Alzheimer's. He was funny, he was jovial, but a minute later he couldn't tell you what he just did. And that, so you could see, and the wife talked about the stressors associated with Alzheimer's. He was there, but he was gone.
Now, some patients have a real struggle as they progress, but I think what you saw, which is the norm in those 2 patients, is that the opportunity for quality of life is there for the people who have this disease. You might change your opinion about what constitutes quality of life, because for that little lady who was so adorable and happy and loving, the quality of life can't be defined anymore about sitting on a committee with her church or leading a fundraiser for a campaign, or making the Christmas dinner. That's not what quality of life is for her anymore. But the same things that brought her the biggest joy years and years ago will continue to do that. For me, when I'm that age, it's going to be put a fuzzy kitty in my lap and let me get that cat to purr. You know, it's going to be going for walks with the dog. It's going to be swimming, you know, all of those things, the things that you get right down to the basics, the things that bring you joy in life. And for my patients, a lot of them, it's gardening, it's walking, it's going to the movies, it's, you know, doing the things that just make you feel good at the end of the day.
Now, how does a person know if they are developing Alzheimer's, or if a member of their family or a friend is developing Alzheimer's? Because, I mean, I've told the story before. I'm a very busy person, but I've always prided myself on my organizational skills and ability to remember. And when I was younger, I could take, if you've heard the story before, just pretend you didn't and laugh, okay? But I used to take a pillow and I throw it on the floor, and that would make me remember, oh yes, I need to put more checks in my checkbook, because it was out of place. Now I get up from either going to bed or taking one of my famous naps, and I look at the pillow and I go,
what's that there for?
There's a pillow on the floor. I am clueless as to why I put it there. Now, would that be the beginning of Alzheimer's?
Well, I'm going to say it could be.
Oh no!
But I'm also going to say it most definitely isn't.
Okay.
Because our memory goes downhill from the age of 21.
21?
Yes, yes, we do our very best learning. I mean, teach a 5-year-old a second language,
right,
and see how easy it is. Teach a 20-year-old a second language, and it's pretty easy. Teach a 30-year-old a second language, it's not so easy. I'm not sure at 57 that I could learn a second language, because I guess our brains are full. You know, we've been gathering all of this information all of our lives. We don't have a clean, empty slate anymore, and it is harder to remember. That's to be expected. That is what's normal with aging. We have to start leaving ourselves notes. We have to. I've gotten very religious about my day planner and writing everything down.
And thank God for post-its.
Post-it
I couldn't
notes.
make it without post-its.
Yes, my patient group has even talked about that. What would we do if we had Alzheimer's disease before they invented post-it notes?
We'd be in trouble. So how would I know? I mean, how would I know?
Short-term memory loss is the key. If you're forgetting every day, and patients who are having problems with their memories, they know it. But of course, your first response, whether it's you or me or them, is to say, well, I didn't get enough sleep last night. I've been under a little bit of stress. I've been worried about my uncle. You know, those are the reasons that we do tend to get mentally disorganized. But when it goes on and on and on, then it's time to be tested.
Well, see, I was told if you misplace your keys, that may not be an issue, but if you forget what keys are for.
Yeah, and that is not a good analogy.
Oh, it isn't?
No.
Scratch that. Okay.
It's not, because there are people who, well, I guess the most important point that I could ever make is that if you've met one Alzheimer patient, you've met one Alzheimer patient.
Okay.
And as each of our brains is so uniquely different, so are theirs. And so some people will, if they don't know what the keys are, it's because they've lost the language part of that. They're having some aphasia going on. But I have seen an advanced Alzheimer patient who had no speech, who could barely walk, pick up a set of keys and take one of our employees' cars. And successfully drive it down the driveway.
Really?
Before we were able to convince him that he shouldn't go. Because the driving skills, the recognition of those keys, those are so much into our long-term memory. A good example would be if, especially to any man, in my generation, ladies had the option of shaking hands way back when. But little boys are taught to shake hands at what age?
Oh, just by the time they have hands. I mean, like when they get ready to walk.
I remember my 2-year-old, you know, he was taught when he was introduced to somebody, he would put out his little hand. Well, if I go to see an Alzheimer patient, especially a male Alzheimer patient who is in the final stages in hospice care, who has barely the ability to make eye contact, who cannot attend for more than a few seconds at a time, and I put out my right hand, what do you think that patient
He probably
does?
instinctively does
automatically, automatically. So there are some parts of memory and learning that don't ever go away, and because, especially for men too, the keys and the driving and all of that, they know what keys are.
Well, now the purpose of your society obviously is to support the family unit. What are some of the real special needs and concerns for caregivers? Because when you and I were talking, I told you that I had gone online. I get a lot of information associated with caregiving and related subjects. And this one study said that there is a high percentage of spouses that take care of someone that has Alzheimer's that then develop it. And I thought, what? Can you speak to that?
Well, the jury's kind of still out on that, but what we do know is that any person who is not having stimulation, nothing in their life to look forward to, not having anything but stress in their life, being isolated, those people do tend to slip earlier into Alzheimer's than they would if they were active and stimulated. And
so it's basically use it or lose it.
It is. It is. And if you use it, you may lose it anyway. But
at least you're using it.
But you'll lose it more slowly, and you'll make use of what you have for a lot longer. And I have early early dementia patients in my support group that have been coming for 5 years, who are still in charge of their life, and they are masters at living with this disease.
Mm-hmm.
They carry their planners with them everywhere they go. If they're in the movie theater and they need to use the restroom, well, when they walked into that movie theater, they not only wrote down the name of the movie, they wrote down which theater they had entered.
Mm-hmm.
So that when they come out of the restroom, I'm in theater 8 seeing
Mm-hmm.
Shrek.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting, interesting. When you and I were talking, we talked about Alzheimer's tends to run in families. As we talked, you mentioned the lady up in the Tahoe area.
Right.
So once if you've got that gene, it may trigger, it may not trigger.
Well, yes, it looks like it's similar to heart disease and stroke. If you've had incidences in your family, you need to be aware, be proactive, look out for that. We have heart disease in our family.
We do too.
So my brother and I are very religious about the antioxidants and keeping the weight at a healthy, reasonable weight, and all of those things. My brother is 60 years old and he skis the double black diamonds. He's just an incredible athlete.
Does that involve snow and poles and,
yes.
and falling down?
Yes. But with Alzheimer's, we're not sure exactly what you should do to avoid turning on the switch. And by turning on the switch, I mean that when you do have a genetic predisposition to something, that doesn't mean that you're going to get it. Although you could do everything right and still get it. Mm-hmm. It just depends on how strong your genetic linkage is.
Well, now, what are some of the real stressors that you see that that's just part of being a caregiver of an Alzheimer's patient?
The isolation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a peer anymore. If it's the wife taking care of the husband or vice versa, that person that for 45 or 50 years has been your partner in life is now like your child. You're
Mm-hmm.
in charge of everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching the news with your husband who has Alzheimer's and there's an interesting story, and during the commercial break you want to say to him, like you have for 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
wow, could you believe? And he says, believe what? He's not following life at the same level as you. He's starting a journey into another world that you're not part of.
I would think anger and frustration would be a part of that, and then anger, frustration, then coupled with guilt, because I'm angry and frustrated because my husband or my wife doesn't do whatever. Oh, but then my wife is sick and now I'm guilty and I'm a horrible spouse.
Yep.
I would think there'd be a lot of that.
Caregivers become impatient with their spouses. Mm-hmm. Or with their parents, if they're taking care of a parent. That's human nature.
Mm-hmm.
And if you become impatient or ill-tempered with someone you're caring for, it means you're human, and it means that it's a red flag, that you need to get some relief from the caregiving stress.
Mm-hmm.
People feel really guilty when that happens. But the important thing is to realize that guilt is a side effect of love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it is. That's all it is. The only people on this planet that don't feel guilt are sociopaths. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy to say I haven't met one caregiver that was sociopathic. Mm-hmm. We feel guilty when we raise our children.
Right.
Could have done that better, could have done this better.
Always.
And the guilt in caregiving is huge. Mm-hmm. The anger is huge. This is not what I signed up for. A lot of times I hear stories like, we just bought a motorhome and we were going to travel the United States, but then she got Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. So all of our plans were.
It's one of the things when I give my different presentations on the book, I tell people so many times they'll say, well, one of these days I'm going to go to Europe. Mm-hmm. One of these days I'm going to do, one of these we're going to do this. Well, one of these days is none of these days. I mean, tomorrow, every day is a gift from God. Tomorrow is not promised. So don't wait to take that vacation. Don't wait to buy that motorhome. My husband and I were fortunate enough that we did a lot of traveling, but we would have done more had I known that he was going to die so early. One of these days he wanted to go to the Panama Canal. We never did it because we didn't plan it. We did other things. So really, I mean, not that you want to create your bucket list, but you want to kind of create a bucket list early on. You know, you don't have to be 60-something to do a bucket list. When you're 40, go ahead and decide, these are some of the places I want to visit. These are some of the things I want to do. And start knocking that stuff off early because, again, tomorrow is not a gift. And then, even if you get tomorrow, if you end up having an issue like Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that, your tomorrow is not going to be the way that you signed up for. So that's,
but
now,
it can be good.
It can be good, you know.
But based on what you were just saying, I also wanted to interject how important it is to get durable power of attorney for health care and for finances. I've already done that. I have my son as my power of attorney. My brother is the alternate. I'm like you, I'm a widow.
Mm-hmm.
The important thing is that whatever it is that I want to say about my own care later on, I can say now. And I laughingly told my son, you know what's really important to me? I hate the color of pale pink. Don't you ever put me in a nursing home and have me sitting there wearing a pale pink robe.
Right.
That's important to me.
Right.
Give me the purple.
Right.
You know, I want the purple.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So whatever it is that you want to share, if you're ever the recipient of care, it means so much to your caregiver to know that they're doing what you wanted.
Well, it is, and it takes the stress off the family, and that's, again, you know, not to be belaboring the point in my book, but it is in the book talking about the importance of making your pre-need wishes known. And you don't have to have Alzheimer's, you don't have to have heart disease or anything of that sort in order to let everyone know what you want whenever that time appears. And planning that is not going to speed up the process. It's not going to speed up your death. It's not going to speed up your Alzheimer. It's just one way. It's like anyone that does their finances, you should balance your accounts. You should know how much money is in the bank, how much you've got outstanding, so you know where you are. It's the same kind of premise when you are preparing for your end of office are going to check out one day. I mean, I'd like to live to be, I don't know, 180 years old. That'd be great if I was healthy and wealthy and wise. But in the event that doesn't happen, it's a good chance that won't happen. If you have all of your affairs laid out, you are able to exit this earth the way that you want to exit it with your affairs in order.
That's right.
Now, what kind of support do you have for the caregivers?
In the Alzheimer's Aid Society? Well, one thing from what we were just speaking of, we have an elder law specialist who is available. He donates his time so that if somebody needs help with their financial planning, perhaps long-term care planning for Medi-Cal, or help with a durable power of attorney, his name is Max Perry, and he's available to meet with families. He gives his time. We have, when we talked about the structure, I'll tell you something that might surprise you. We're a pretty big organization, and we have 2 big offices. We have 5 paid staff members.
Wow.
And of those 5, only 2 are full-time. The office managers are part-time, our bookkeeper is part-time, our president is full-time, and the vice president of development is full-time.
How do you get everything done? Do you have a lot of volunteers?
We do.
Ah, tell us about that.
We do, and they're very special volunteers. Our offices are manned by peer counselors. These are volunteers that have been down the journey themselves. Often the wife of a husband who's passed away from Alzheimer's disease. And now that they've gotten their bearings after the loss, they want to give back. They want to help others, and they are the greatest treasure. They are
well, I would think they'd
wonderful.
have so much credibility. If I called in talking about I'm really angry because of whatever, or I'm really upset, or I'm confused, they've walked a walk very similar to mine. If they haven't walked it specifically, they know one of the other volunteers, and so suddenly I would have, as you say, a peer counselor. They could sit down and say, all right, calm down, B. I know how you're feeling. And that now these are some of the services that we can offer. Do you have actual support groups?
We have about 20 support groups for caregivers. We have 2 support groups for patients. And all of our support group leaders are also volunteers. Most of them are professionals in the field. Some are also peer counselors. So sometimes our family members who are peer counselors go on to lead support groups as well.
Now, how does it work out a support group for those that have Alzheimer's? Would they be in the early stages?
They are. Yeah. And I've been doing the early stage support group here in Sacramento for 11 years. And they had to drag me into doing it because 11 years ago we didn't have the medications, the means to slow down the disease, all of the windows of hope that we see now for a cure in our lifetime. And so I was thinking, why do they want to sit around and talk about something that's so hopeless? But it's not hopeless.
Well, what are some of the main concerns of people that are in those the early onset in the groups? What are some of the concerns? What are some of the things that really frustrate them regarding the disease?
Well, Alzheimer's disease, I'm beginning more and more to look at it as though it's the same disease progressing, but it's like it's two different diseases. In those early stages, the patient is in charge. He passes through a doorway at some point, and the caregiver is in charge. But during that early stage, when someone first walks into my support group having recently been diagnosed, number one, they believe that their intelligence is washing out of their brain, and sometimes they feel like it is. Number two, they have questions like, will I still know my family this Christmas? So the first thing they learn in the group is that memory and intelligence are two different things altogether. And even though many patients in the early stages have language problems, they might have trouble. We've all done the tip of your tongue syndrome.
Right.
Many times with Alzheimer's, that is really profound. People really have to work to pull out a word. The word's there, though. The word's there, the intelligence is there. And when people are comfortable in the group and they're aware that we're all going to wait for them to get to what they need to say, they relax, and the problem itself actually lessens. And then with medications like Aricept and Memantine, the language problems actually can improve, especially with Memantine.
Well, what are some of the advice you would give, if you can, people that do have someone in their family that's early onset? I mean, obviously to be patient.
Well, to get to a support group, to get to a support group, or to talk one-on-one with one of our peer counselors or with me, to talk about what are the stressors. And Alzheimer's disease is like a big old camel, but I can tell you we can always get enough straws off the camel's back so that it can walk comfortably. Can't turn it into a racehorse, can't make it what it's not, but we can always get enough relief for the problems that they're having. And the problems are, you know, there's hundreds of common problems in Alzheimer's. It could be mood changes or personality changes that the patient is having. Probably the most destructive behavior that happens in Alzheimer's to the caregiver is the person who doesn't sleep at night.
Oh yeah, because it's a case. You're in a case of sleep deprivation. When I was taking care of my late husband, I could tell you how many times during the night his bed went up, how many times it went down, if he went to the bathroom, whatever. Because your ear, it's like having a little infant in the house. Your ear is constantly open, and I would think because the person's not terminal and they can get around. Are they going to turn the stove on? Are they going to go outside? Are they going to start the car? Are they going to let the dog out? And then
are they going to attempt to cook breakfast?
Right.
Yeah.
All those things. So do you encourage the caregivers to do respite?
We do, yes. Whether it's to have someone come into the home to give them some relief, or going to an adult daycare setting, or out-of-home respite for when they get a chance to go on a vacation or whatever. And sometimes those sleep problems with the patient can be alleviated by just the activities during the day and so forth. But some patients just are restless around the clock. And that's probably the number one reason that out-of-home placement becomes absolutely necessary. Because even if you hired someone to come into the home at night, and you know this because you cared for your husband, you would still hear what's going on at night. You still wouldn't sleep well.
Interesting. And there are different board and care options, and we discussed that in a previous episode. Do you want to speak to that briefly?
Well, there are boarding cares, which boarding cares and assisted livings and residential cares, actually they all share the same license.
Okay.
They're all RCFEs, residential care facilities for the elderly.
And what are the differences?
Well, there are no differences as far as what the license requires of them.
But the services they're offered, board and care.
Board and care can be anything, and this is a laughable term. It can be anything from 3 hots and a cot, which means, you know, here's your 3 meals and you need some help with your shoes because you have arthritis, and here's your bed and we'll do your laundry for you. Those are the things that they have to do under their license. But just like a restaurant, they can serve freshly baked bread, or they can serve you a slice out of the
Spam.
Right. And the same thing is true with boarding care, with assisted living, with residential care. So some provide a whole range of services, including security for Alzheimer patients and training for their staff and low staff patient ratios. They might provide hospice care for end-of-life care, but they don't have to. So when someone is getting ready for placement, it's really good to talk to someone who knows the facilities, because you will spend a lot of time looking for one that actually suits the needs. And even boarding cares are wonderful because they're very home-like environments, they're more affordable. But even among those that are very good with Alzheimer patients, one might care for the very advanced patient who might be in a wheelchair, and there would be just not a good fit for someone who is active at night and wanting to wander. And then there are facilities where everyone is it's like walking into a roller rink. Everyone is on the go, everyone is active. That's not where you would put your loved one if they were in a wheelchair and very frail. So,
well, now question, if you have a wanderer, one that likes to wander about the facilities and maybe leave, do they have alarm systems at the door, or do they wear ankle bracelets? I mean, they
can. More often than not, they have an alarm on the door. There are strategies that facilities can take. If the area for walking is in the backyard, which it usually is, then they decorate that room with the back door, so the back door is just a standout. It's a different color from the wall.
No,
it's a standout.
They decorate the
room. Let's say the walls are white. You would paint the door a dark brown. You would put a big sign saying exit on that door. The front door, however, you would paint the same color as the wall. You could even hang a curtain over it to disguise it. So you're discouraging the person from going where you don't want them to go.
So they would go exit, but they'd exit into the yard.
Yep.
Oh, how clever.
Yep.
How clever.
So strategies like that, because we don't ever want to argue with the patient. Their reality is their reality. And the whole philosophy of care is that when we can't bring the patient to our world anymore, we're still very welcome in theirs. So we need to respect what their reality is. If the patient says that his mother will be picking him up at 8, you don't argue with that.
Right, that's their new normal.
You just say, oh, that's wonderful. So up until 8, why don't we go do such and such? You just distract them to another activity.
Because I've even heard that people that are used to maintaining their own finances and writing checks, you let them continue to write checks, but they're to a closed account.
Yep.
And that, so you have to really meet them at their own sense of reality.
That's right.
You know, not argue with them, which is tough to do. But you have to basically, if you're a caregiver, you'd have to enter into their world and try to see things, I would think, from their perspective. And I think once doing that, it won't be as frustrating.
The easiest tool a caregiver learns is to start off by agreeing. That puts you on the right foot right there. If someone says, I've got to get to work, you agree immediately. You say, yes, you do. I'm going to call them and let you know that you're running a little late. And then you immediately come back and say, you know what, they've closed the office today, you don't have to go in. So whatever it is that the person is agitated about, you start off by agreeing, you get onto their side. And there's some exceptions to that, of course. If the person says, you stole my jewelry, you're not going to say, yes, I stole your jewelry. But you are going to say, I can understand why it seems that way. Because Gladys, she thought I did too. It's because I'm in your room all the time, but let me go check and see if it's there for you.
Right, and that would just automatically lower the temperature.
Yeah, you're validating that you respect their reality.
Now, what is the society doing, the Alzheimer's AIDS Society doing, to bring increased awareness about this disease?
Oh, we're at every health fair that we can be at. We have a fantastic website, which I think you'll put on the screen. And we're now on Facebook. Imagine that.
Everyone's on Facebook.
We're on Facebook.
Last night I saw an interview with the creator. I think there's like 174 million people that are on Facebook. I mean, what an idea.
Yes. And then something I wanted to show you. These are available free of charge. This is our blue book, which we've had for quite a number of years. We're in the process of doing an update, a rewrite.
It's a practical guide for Alzheimer's, for the Alzheimer caregivers. What's inside there?
All articles about behavioral issues, planning, doctor's visits, just a wealth of information. And it's also available in Spanish. So we have
Que
both.
bueno.
Que bueno. All you need to do is give a call to the Alzheimer's Society and we'll get one out to you. And these are available at our support groups and at...
and you have a green one. Is the green one a different one?
The green one is in Espanol.
Ah, verde.
Yes, verde.
Sí. Yes. Okay, great.
It's our green-blue book.
Okay, your green-blue book.
Yes.
You have other brochures and things?
I brought our brochure, which tells about what our services are and a little bit about the disease, our addresses, our website, everything. And again, a simple call to the Alzheimer's Society will get anybody a packet of new information, which contains kind of a starter kit.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, if I join I come to the Alzheimer's Aid Society, is there a cost associated with that?
No. No. We have a very nominal fee for the 2 major conferences that we put on each year for professionals and caregivers. But other than that, we have a lending library, we furnish the blue books, we have support groups, we have consultation with an elder law specialist or with a resource specialist, meet with a peer counselor. None of those things have fees associated with them. We operate solely on donations, both from the United Way and from the public.
Wonderful, wonderful. What's the one thing that you would like for people to know about your society? That
they don't need to go through it alone, whether it's them worrying about their memory, or whether they're worried about their loved one's memory, or whether they're in the throes of caregiving and thinking that this is the way it's got to be. It doesn't. Give us a call.
Well, and again, to the caregivers that are watching this evening, and that you really need to unball your fists and to reach out and to get help. And it doesn't make any difference what the particular disease or the ailment is. There is help available. There are support groups for everything out there. And you're not a failure. There's nothing wrong with you by checking into some additional help. And by you helping yourself, you'll be able to help your loved one a lot better. And also, I'm a strong believer in respite. I took a couple of 3 respite vacations. My sister kidnapped me and took me to San Diego, which was very, very nice. And then another sister kidnapped me and took me to Texas. But interesting enough, having done that, I caught a lot of flack from other people that resented the fact your husband's ill. I can't believe that you're leaving. I mean, what kind of wife are you? And because they weren't walking down the same path that I was walking.
Those are backseat caregivers. Oh, they know how to drive the car, but you know where you're going.
That is an excellent way to describe it. The backseat caregivers. Now, other special events that you have certainly would be your famous walk.
Yes, that's coming up in July. I brought that brochure too.
And one of your sponsors is Eastlawn, as you can tell.
Yes.
Eastlawn is our #1 sponsor. And
they not only sponsor us, they host the event. The run starts at Eastlawn and finishes at Eastlawn. It runs through all those fabulous neighborhoods, hilly terrain, and it is a run walk. So there are a lot of people who are older or maybe not as athletic that come out and participate too. The kids run is at 8 in the morning, and the main event is at 8:30. And this year, something that's new is that if groups of 10 or more sign up, and they're running or walking in honor or in memory of someone, Eastlawn will put together a commemorative video for them. They need to bring photos of their loved one. There'll be photos taken of their group when they arrive, and then they'll receive in just a few weeks' time a video, a DVD that contains footage of the race, of their loved one's picture of them, and it's all set to music, and it's beautifully done.
Well, see, and this is in keeping with the really the mission statement and the headset of the Eastlawn Foundation Corporation. It's wonderful, not just because they're our main sponsor, but they really are an active member in the community, and they want to make sure that people do understand they're more than just a mortuary and a funeral home. Now, what we're going to do, we have a wonderful 11-minute video that we're going to show you that deals with covers last year's Alzheimer's walks. So let's take a moment and watch that.
We're an independent organization. Our goal is to help the families and caregivers deal with those families afflicted with Alzheimer's disease. We're a volunteer organization. We have 90 volunteers, and the great thing about it is that today all the proceeds, as we said before, stay in Northern California. And today we have a great turnout. Last year we had 1,230 people, but this year we're going to be over 1,500.
Mayor, why are you here this morning?
Well, Alzheimer is a great cause and it affects a lot of us, and if there's a way that we can bring public awareness and raise some funds to help support the research that goes on in families that have been impacted, that's the least I can do. And on the other hand, this is a great run. It runs through East Sacramento in the fabulous 40s. The weather is great. You can't beat a Sacramento morning in the month of July.
Here, Eliza, tell me who you're running for.
My grandma.
And can you tell me what your grandma meant to you and why you're here?
She was really nice and I loved her.
All right, on your mark. Get set.
We're one of the media sponsors, so we have 4 local newspapers that help support the event.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of worthy organizations to sponsor. Why have you chosen the Alzheimer's Aid Society?
Well, it's the association with some of the other people that are helping to sponsor it as well, and it's just one way to really help the community. And I actually worked in hospice for many years, so I worked with a lot of families that had, Alzheimer's is what the disease was that the patient had. So it was something that, from a personal experience, I just really wanted to support the families.
B, can you tell us why you started this organization?
Well, I lost 2 brothers, 2 sisters, a mother, a niece, and now a nephew has it, and he lives up in Redding, and he's 53 in the last stages.
And so you have all these family members who have been challenged by it. What did you hope that the society would be able to accomplish?
We're information, education, and we have support groups. When we close our 3 offices, we answer the phone 24 hours a day. John does it in the middle of the night.
We provide senior living. We have secured facilities and assisted living communities, and we're just out here to promote education for the resources for families and the residents. We feel they get pushed aside, especially the diagnosis. So we're here to be listened to, be voiced.
We're here with the West family, and Nadine West, why are you here today?
We're here to represent members of our family that have suffered from this disease and to hope to help find a cure.
Seeing all these people here, what does that mean to you?
Oh, it's fabulous. It's even bigger than last year. It's just more than words can describe, that the pain of this disease and the joy in knowing that there are this many people that want to help find a cure.
Charmaine, tell us why you're here.
I'm here to support Alzheimer's research for my grandma. My grandma Lou was diagnosed with Alzheimer's about 3 years ago. Oh, it's amazing. This is a wonderful cause. It's such a strong impact on the families, and when we have this kind of support and know that people are out there to support us, it's really nice.
And of course, all the vendors the volunteers that help out today. We have the Sacramento Banjo Band. We've got so much going on here even after you finish the race. And a big supporter of the Sacramento racing community, our mayor.
Good morning, Sacramento. How are we? As the mayor of Sacramento, I get to kick off the race, and I couldn't think of any better city to be kicking off this race. So let's give it up for the Alzheimer AIDS Society. So last year we had about 1,200 participants and we raised about $45,000. This year we have 1,500 participants and we raised $60,000 for Alzheimer's. This is going to be one of our featured races. This is a city championship race.
Timers ready, racers ready. On your marks, set. And here, oh my gosh, they're already coming. Course record, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen, from Transports. This might be Austin Ramos coming in. Austin Ramos, ladies and gentlemen. Ex-Jesuit star, what's in UCLA? All right, let's hear for Austin. That's Jason Horn, ladies and gentlemen. Second place of East Lawn Memorial Park. All right, this is our top three right here from Oak Ridge High School. Good job, you guys.
I'm here with Wayne Wu, who is running for his father, Albert Wu, who is an Alzheimer's patient. Why are you at the race here today?
We just found out within the last couple of weeks that my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and in doing some research to find out what kind of options were available to help me and my family out going through this time, we discovered about the race, and we decided to be a perfect opportunity to come out here and donate to a good cause.
I'm here with Josh Wade, who has come all the way here from West Virginia to run this race. And Josh, tell me why you're running this 5K.
I came out here for my grandfather, Russell Wade. He died in 2002 of Alzheimer's. 8 years he spent with it. So I just come out here to run for him and keep in shape.
Marika Dander, Kathy Peterson. Bob Rinker, Mary Mato, Claire Hanamoto from the Buffalo Chip, 60 years old, Mike Mato. Wendy Pratt, John Nichols, Wendy Pratt, one of our toppers right now from Davis. Good job, Wendy. Kevin, KP Pedrati, ladies and gentlemen. Good job, Kevin.
Dana Braley is here and has run the 5K. Dana, what brings you here to East Lawn?
We were just getting into running, and then it was Alzheimer's, and my grandmother just passed away from it this year. So running on her memory. Seeing just all the support and all the people running and seeing everyone that they're running in memory of someone, you know, it's just like, wow, it really does affect a lot of people, and the money that they raise can help, hopefully find a cure someday for it or help in that area.
I think it was pretty good and everything. I got really tired and sweaty, and it was really cool and everything. I got to do a lot of stuff in it. I almost tripped a few times.
We're running in honor of my dad, Bob Brown, who suffered with Alzheimer's for over 5 years, and he passed away last week. So my daughter Heather's with us, my brother David, his friend Fran, and all of the family that couldn't make it today are honoring his memory. So thank you guys for putting this on. Awesome.
Great. And Heather, what does this mean doing this for your grandfather?
I think it's a great way to honor his memory and to do something for a disease that a lot of people suffer from, and you know, it's a good coping method for the families who have to go through it. So it's a healing for us.
And can you tell me why you're here today?
My grandma died in 2007 of Alzheimer's, and it's been like a really big deal for our family because we just feel like it's like the worst disease ever, and it really should get more funding for research and stuff. So yeah, that's why we're here.
Okay, and
I'm Janine, and I'm here also for my mom, like she said, but it's also a challenge that my daughter gave to us because she's a runner and we're not, and so this was a good motivation to get out and exercise, so we got all involved.
Okay, what does it mean to you to see all these people out here to support a cause that affected your family so deeply?
You know, it was really emotional, and when I started coming back, I thought I made it, and I said, this is for you, Mom. And I was so impressed that so many people are supporting their loved ones through this cause.
Tell us why you are here to sponsor this.
I first started talking to Sal Arrigo about 2 years ago about this event, and we just thought it would be a great partnership for East Lawn to work with the Alzheimer's AIDS Society. It's a good cause, and we're glad to be a part of it.
It's truly a beautiful setting, and we've heard so many wonderful comments about the course. What does it take to get prepared for this?
Many hands. A lot of hands make light work, and it's just been a great opportunity to see so many volunteers. So many of our East Lawn staff have worked together to make this happen.
Okay, we've had a large volunteer turnout, and do you expect that to grow in the years to come?
I do. At pre-registration yesterday, giving out packets, we had people coming in asking where to sign up to volunteer. So we've already started our increased 2010 list for volunteers. So we continue that to get bigger and bigger.
David Taggart he was our mausoleum supervisor, and he passed away about a week ago. And so all of us at East Lawn are doing this in his honor. He was just a great part of this program, great part of our East Lawn family. We miss him a lot, so we're doing this for him.
Now, what is it that you need in order to continue your work? What do you need from the public? What can we do?
Continue to support the awareness of the disease, continue to encourage people to get diagnosed, to get evaluated.
Because it sounds like if you have Alzheimer's, it's not the end of the world. It may be the end of the world as you know it, but it seems like there's a lot of latitude inside of the disease and what you can do in handling the disease.
Yep. And interestingly, you asked what can we do?
Mm-hmm.
Just exactly what you're doing, being interested, helping us to get the word out there. But in the long run, we will never be short of really compassionate people that help to lift up and hold up the Alzheimer's AIDS Society.
Why do you say that?
Because it's a great reason to be passionate, and although we see the bad side of life all the time, I can attest that the good side of life is alive and well and working at the Alzheimer's Society. So we'll always have people that will be on our committees, will be our event volunteers, will be our peer counselors. We'll always have that, and we will continue forward until there's a cure.
Well, that's important, because in life we cannot always control what happens to us, but we can choose how we're going to deal with it.
That's